What's up, college football fans? Welcome to another QB Spotlight video. And today we're going to talk about Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett. And anyone that's been following us along the past month and a half knows we've been going through every quarterback in the SEC or every quarterback room in the SEC and just kind of giving our 2 cents on things and kind of just our overall thoughts on the current quarterback situation. And so with Georgia's situation, of course, they had their returning quarterback Stetson Bennett, and they got some young talented guys backing him up. But for the sake of the video, we're just going to talk about Bennett. And Bennett's a quarterback who receives probably an unfair amount of criticism, right? Or at least whenever they say he has like an asterisk by his name, right? Because they had the best defense and potential. They potentially had the best defense in college football history. They had a great team around him. So you hear a lot of people say, "Hey, you could have plugged in any quarterback in that system or with that team and won the national championship." And maybe so, right? You probably could have put in a lot of different quarterbacks in that system and have done well. But that's a testament to how good the team was, not necessarily a shock to Stetson Bennett. So I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way because I do think he does some good things as a quarterback, and sure, you could put in different quarterbacks and they could probably play equally or better. But you could say that about a lot of different teams with a lot of different situations, and you shouldn't have to apologize for being on the best team in the nation with the best defense in the nation. He just did what he had to do. So today we're going to talk about kind of two big takeaways from watching Bennett from last year that should give Georgia Bulldogs confidence that he can potentially continue to take the next step and develop as a quarterback. I'm not here to say that he's going to be some NFL future draft pick or a big Heisman potential front runner, but I do think he probably is a better quarterback than he gets credit for, and so I do want to talk about these two takeaways. So the first takeaway that comes to mind, or the first takeaway that I have when watching Stetson Bennett, goes back to 2020, and you can see the improvement from 2020 to 2021, right? People get so obsessed with what he can't do, his limitations, and they compare him to the Bryce Youngs, the CJ Strouds, the Caleb Williams, right? So I think if you stop comparing Stetson Bennett to those quarterbacks and realize, hey, he might not have the upside or high ceiling that those guys have, if you kind of get that comparison out, I think you find that he did a pretty damn good job in 2021. And the biggest takeaway from 2020 to 2021 is his ability to improve, right? Especially from the previous year. I think we have to allow kids to get better and to develop. 2020 was his first real starting experience, especially at the high level at the SEC. And his quarterback rating from 2020 to 2021 was more than 50 points higher. And I'm not going to sit here and try to make up reasons or try to tell you like the formula of the quarterback rating. I just know he was a lot better in 2021 to 2020. So let's look at these stats real quick as well. In 2021, he had 29 passing touchdowns. In 2020, he had 6. Okay, I'm sorry, he had 8. In 2020, he had 6 interceptions. In 2021, he had 7. So he only threw one more interception in 2021 compared to 2020, and he had a multitude more of attempts and played in every game compared to 2020 was probably half the season, a little more than half the season. He had over 2,800 yards passing. He had a completion percentage of 64.5, and this is probably these two stats, this completion percentage and yards per attempt, are probably my biggest takeaways. In 2020, his completion percentage was 55.5, so his completion percentage improved by almost more than 10 points there, which is a pretty big deal, especially with the number of passes he threw in 2021. And then this is another one that gets me: yards per attempt. Yards per attempt in 2020 were 7.6. Yards per attempt in 2021 was right at 10. That's a 2.5 yards difference, right about 2.5 yards difference, which is a pretty big deal, especially in that offense, especially in the SEC. I think he probably took more deep shots than people realize. And yeah, there were some jump balls, but again, as a quarterback, when you have good, talented receivers and you have good players on the outside, you want to throw jump balls because it's more like a 60-40 than a 50-50 ball. So again, the big takeaways was his improvement from 2020 to 2021. And yeah, we talked about some of the touchdowns and interceptions, but my biggest takeaways was yards per attempt are almost 2.5 yards higher, and the completion percentage was almost 10 points higher, right at 9 points higher. So those are big kind of numbers saying that he's projecting in the right direction. Again, if you stop comparing him to other high-end quarterbacks and just kind of compare him to what he did the previous year, I think you should be encouraged. And I think you have with more experience, he's coming into year 3. I would expect those numbers to continue to maybe not necessarily improve, but continue to maintain that or even get better a little bit. Okay, let's move on to the second takeaway of why I think Stetson Bennett has the potential to continue to grow as a quarterback. And he made plays when he's needed, right? He made big plays when needed. And now they didn't have any real game besides the national championship and Alabama game where it was a close game per se, right? Besides the Kentucky game, but still, in the national championship game, made some big time throws. In the Michigan game before they ran away, made some big time throws. And even the game that they lost in the SEC championship, he still made some throws. That was a rough game for him overall. Had a few picks, but he still made some throws in those big situations. And so I try to group the four biggest games that he had in 2021 as far as like the closeness of the game and the talent of the game. So I put in Bama twice, right? The SEC game and national championship game, the Michigan game, even though they crushed them, then Kentucky because that was the closest game or the closest team that came closest to beating them, in the regular season. So even though he didn't play Bama great in the first game, right, but still he had some plays. But so in those four games, he had 11 passing touchdowns in 4 games. In those 4 games, 2 interceptions, and a completion percentage that totaled over 65. In one of those games, his completion percentage was over 70. So the 4 biggest games of Georgia's season in 2021, Bennett played pretty damn good, even with that SEC championship loss to Alabama. So again, that's kind of my second takeaway. He made big plays when needed. Now it's not these big plays that he makes isn't going to be as quote unquote sexy as these other quarterbacks that we mentioned in the video. But still, if you get the comparison out of your thoughts when thinking about Bennett, I think you should come away encouraged, right? His completion percentage went up by 10. His yards per attempt went up by 2.5. He only had 1 more interception last year than he did in 2020, and he played probably twice the amount of snaps. Touchdowns are up by more than 3 times. And so I think if you're a Georgia fan or if you're just a college football fan in general and you haven't given much thought to Stetson Bennett, I think he does deserve some more recognition and some more credit. Again, I'm not here saying that he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. He's going to be a high draft pick or any of those things. I just think there's some good things that Bennett does, and I think the maturation process that he's gone through, I think was evident in 2021. I think you can hopefully, if you're a Georgia fan, expect that to happen again in 2022. And these 2 takeaways, the ability to improve and get better, and then the ability to make plays in big games and make plays when needed, I think are 2 positive takeaways that should have Georgia fans or just a fan of college football in general keeping Stetson Bennett on the radar as a quarterback who could make some noise and have a pretty good season. It also helps that he has a bunch of talent around him. So again, those are my 2 cents on Stetson Bennett in general. I don't have any of the analytical advanced data that probably have him lower in the country or whatever, as I've heard other people talked about. But again, I do think Bennett probably deserves a bit more credit than given. But those are just my 2 cents again. But I want to hear from you. What do you think about Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett? What are your thoughts about him next year? Do you have any other takeaways from him as far as what he can do better or what he's done well? Let us know in the comments below. And again, if you like this video, please consider subscribing. We put out quarterback content throughout the week, and we spend a lot of time in the SEC, but we cover all things college football as long as it's related to the quarterback position. Again, let us know in the comments below your thoughts on Bennett, and we'll see you next time on the next quarterback related video.